call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, all members are present. We have the agenda in front of us. We have two changes. We will be deleting 7J and adding 7L, approve the resolution 2015-52 approving irrigation system extension. Is there any other changes?
No.
Council?
Only a question. I kind of thought that those lot split recombinations were related. Does it make sense to do one and not the other?
Because the recombo part, one of the owners that wanted it went ahead and bought it, and the other one declined.
Okay.
So they're only doing one.
All right.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with those two changes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Heidi, second by Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes of the July 15th, 2015 meeting. Is there any changes, corrections, clarification? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the July 15th, 2015?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Diane. Second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Now is when we have our public open forum. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Seeing none, our public open forum is now closed. Public hearings, street reconstruction plan.
You should have them ask the fourth time.
I will recess the regular meeting. We will now go into our public hearing. We have a public hearing before us this evening regarding the street reconstruction plan. It is our intention that everyone has the opportunity to be heard. If you wish to speak, please sign in on the sign-up sheet at the back of the room. The procedure is as follows. Presentation by staff, followed by questions of staff. Then we will go to public input. Raise your hand. When recognized by the mayor, approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. State your comments and position. No one will be allowed to speak a second time until everyone has had a chance to be heard. First, we will hear questions for clarification. Secondly, public in favor of the proposal. Third, public speaking against the proposal. After everyone who wishes to speak has had the opportunity to be heard, the hearing will be closed. After closure of the public hearing, the council will deliberate and take action as appropriate. Members of the audience do not participate in the council's discussion unless a majority of the council concedes to hear additional information or questions. The hearing is now in session. Keith?
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight we do have the second time we've gone through the public hearing for the street reconstruction plan. This is largely a procedural issue, as you probably see in your packets. We held the previous hearing on June 3rd. At that meeting, everything that was presented to the council, presented to the public, looked at a total plan of $990,000. And that was an updated number from 850, which went out in the publication of that hearing. In between there is when we learned there were some additional dollars that we had to pay to the county in an amount of $148,000 estimated. So the number was updated. Unfortunately, bond council felt that we needed to redo the public hearing because the initial notice had a different dollar amount. So those someone may have been okay with 850 and maybe not okay with 990,000. So that's the purpose of the meeting. We're not going to have the formal presentation. Everything is exactly the same. You do have that presentation in your packet, so nothing's changed from what you saw that night. So with that, I'll open up to any questions you may have, otherwise to the public.
Council have any questions for Keith other than what we went through at the last time we did this? Okay. You said $148,000,
148,000 is what we owe the...
but the figures are 140,000,
We,
so.
it's rounded to some
Okay.
degree, so.
All right. I didn't know if you would.
Yeah, there's not 8,000 missing.
Okay.
It's included.
Okay. Do we have any other questions from the council? Hearing none. We'll then open it up to the public. I don't know if there's anyone here that wants to speak in favor or against, but I will ask 3 times. Is there anyone here that would like to speak for clarification for or against? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council about clarification for or against? Well, a 3rd time. Is there anyone here that would like to speak for clarification for or against the street reconstruction plan? Seeing none, then I would, we'll close the public hearing and reconvene the regular council meeting.
The next item is the approval of the plan again.
Yeah, we have a report.
Right.
With the revised.
Yeah, we've got one report before that.
Yep.
Okay, reports and presentations, Park Board report, City Administrator.
Okay, the Park Board met last night. It was their regular session. They had a few items on the agenda to discuss. I mean, they did receive the campground report. The campground continues to be very busy. Most of our weekends are full, which is a good sign. A couple of items of unfinished business they're taking care of. There is a recommendation tonight for the City Council to complete the concrete work and the sprinkler system and turf reestablishment. Those are action items later on. They did some additional discussion on some design for the splash pad rain garden. They will have a recommendation for the policy for the monthly rental contracts. So when we can take and who has first priority on rental contracts for the monthly sites. And they worked on the budget for 2016. And otherwise, information items, the representative of the board will be attending the Lions Club meeting next Wednesday night. They'd requested that he attend and talk about some ways the Lions may be able to help support the splash pad. So, any questions on the park board?
Any extra comments, Heidi? Okay. No. Hearing none? Okay, thank you. We will then move on to action items. 7A, approve resolution 2015-48, approving amended street reconstruction plan.
That is the whole report there. This is re-adopting that same resolution that you adopted on June 6th, approving the street reconstruction plan.
Any other questions or anything council has thought of? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve resolution 2015-48, approving street reconstruction plan?
So
Motion.
moved.
Second.
Motion by Heidi, second by Dave. Any other questions, comments?
I really should have asked earlier, but these are the only projects that will be done, or that's not cast in, if we have additional?
If we have additional, those are a budgeted plan. Those can be amended at any time. We're not restricted to just those.
Okay.
And we're not required to do those.
Okay.
It's just, it's a plan.
Okay, the reason I ask that is because I see Willow is on there, where it joins Hickman. You probably know that too, that probably should be done as one stretch, my thought. But that could be added.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? We have a motion and a second. Motion is to approve resolution 2015-48, approving the street reconstruction plan. We'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7B, approve resolution 2015-49, providing for sale of bonds.
This is the bond sale that we had approved to occur today. We received bids, and George Idelson from Northland Securities is here to walk you through that process.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. There is a bond sale packet in front of you this evening. As your administrator referenced, we took financing bids this morning at 10:30 and here tonight to present those results. I will say that in your packet, I apologize, there's a page missing for the total debt service page. The wrong page got put in there. But nonetheless, I'll walk through the pages, and it's certainly still relevant. Prior to going into the overview of the bonds, I should just note that the city's existing bond rating with Standard & Poor's, which is AA-, was reassigned. Anything in the AA category is considered a very strong credit, so you have been your very strong credit status has been reaffirmed. So congratulations on that. Just a couple highlights in the bond rating report. The rating, or the assignment rather, of the AA- rating reflects strong management with good financial policies, strong budgetary performance, and good available fund balances. The state auditor certainly has recommendations on how much fund balance to keep in reserve, and you're certainly within those margins. So again, getting the assignment of that AA- rating helps to get a lot of interest from bidders and better interest rates when you do come to market. So, and we saw that today. If I could direct you to page 3, it says Exhibit A, tabulation of bids. This was the grouping of bidders. There was 7 total bidders, and as you can see, it's certainly a national flavor here in terms of investment banks that bid on your bonds. We award on the far right-hand column the true interest cost, which is a combination of the underwriter, what they work for, and what interest rates they're putting onto your bonds. So UMB, which is United Missouri Bank out of Kansas City, was the low bidder with a 1.97. And United Bankers Bank out of Bloomington, Minnesota is the second place bid, close behind at 2%. So honestly, seeing 7 bids, that's really strong. You came to market on a good day. I mean, there's not a lot of competition coming to market today, and then you had a nice structure for the bidders. So that's why we saw such interest. If I could have you page forward to page 6, and this says pricing summary at the top. This is why, I'll explain, when I was in front of you last time, there was a bond issue size that was about $70,000 larger. And so now the resolution that you would consider later in your meeting awards a financing that's $70,000 less than what you came to market with. And here's why on this page. The 2 columns in the middle, you see the coupon and the yield. And so this is the structure that United Missouri Bank bid with. This is very common in the current bond market, that they bid with a premium bid. That is, investors will pay a premium above the current market to earn at a higher rate of return. And so the yield column, that's the real market right now for a AA- credit. The coupon is what you will be paying interest on when you pay back these bonds. So that difference between those 2 columns is revenue to the city. What we do with that then is use it to downsize the new bonds. So the effect of that is somewhat of a push, where you're now borrowing less money but at a higher interest rate. So it all kind of works out in the end. It's a very common way, again, that investors, they'll pay a premium to get that higher rate of return. So again, it's the combination of that bond premium And then the underwriter worked for less. We always, when we go out to the bond market, we say, here's how much we're allowing for you to work for, underwriter or investment bank, and they worked for less, which is good. So the combination of the bond premium plus less revenue being paid to the purchaser allows us to downsize your bonds by $70,000. You still net the same amount that you were hoping to get for your project. So, so that's my overview. So rates are better than when I was in front of you last time. So overall, I think this financing came in very nice. You've got a true interest cost less than 2% for a 10-year financing term. As I noted, and I don't want to point out my mistake here, but page 5 is for one of the two purposes. Of course, we've got the Beltline project and we've got Center Street. And so we run a separate schedule, if you will, for each of those two purposes. One of those schedules made its way in here. The one that was supposed to be on that page was the total of the entire bond. So I'll get that up to Vicki but nonetheless, you still would be locking in the interest rates that you see on that pricing summary page when you consider that resolution. Any questions, Mayor, or members of the council?
Council have anything? Nothing? Okay.
Okay. And Mayor, if you'll allow me
Yep. Go ahead.
one more minute, and this is on a different topic. You'll probably see me back here in like 2, maybe 3 months. And this time it would be to try to help you save money. For example, the bond you're considering to approve tonight has a call date. That date is February 1st of 2022. And so once you reach that call date, you can refinance or prepay bonds. I shared this with Vicki ahead of the meeting, but there's 2 bonds, one that is for the building that we're in, and then the Ash Street bonds from 2008. So those 2 bonds are both approaching their call date, which is 2/1 of 16. But you can do a refunding of those bonds within a 90-day window leading up to that. So this fall, September, October, around that timeline is when you could consider the potential of refunding those bonds. And I wouldn't share this with you unless there was a savings. And so based upon the current market, we're looking at in the neighborhood of $200,000 of overall savings after costs of issuance are factored in. So just an FYI, I'll likely be back barring big changes in the market. But that'll be something for the city council later this fall.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions on that? Okay. Thank you, George.
Come back every week if it's safe.
Sure. Okay, with that, is there any other questions? Otherwise, I'll be looking for a motion to approve Resolution 2015-49, providing for the sale of bonds.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Diane,
Second.
second by Dave. Any questions, concerns? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7C, approved transfer of entitlement dollars.
I've been in front of you a couple different times in the past to transfer dollars that were allocated to us by the FAA for the airport that are set to expire because we're not ready to use them yet, and we can keep them we can build them for 5 years, and then they roll off the back end unless we use them, unless you can transfer them to another airport. So we do have $7,900 that's expected to expire. It's actually of $2,012. The city of Worthington has stepped forward and said they would like to use those dollars and then return our $7,900 later down the road. So we are recommending that we approve the transfer of entitlement dollars to the city of Worthington in the amount of $7,900. It does have a repayment provision in it sometime prior to the fiscal year 2020 if we request those dollars back, and we do anticipate a large project at the airport in the next few years, so we expect to receive those dollars back and we'll use them then. So that is my request tonight, is to approve the transfer of those dollars.
Questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the transfer of entitlement dollars to the city of Worthington in the amount of $7,900?
So moved.
A motion by Keith,
I'll second.
second by Heidi. Any other additional questions? This will be identical to the one we just did probably, what, a month ago?
We have done it to Owatonna and Montevideo,
Right.
and now this one.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7D, approved resolution 2015-50, authorizing application for special appropriation grant for Eagles Healing Nest.
In special session of the legislature this spring, the legislature appropriated funds for the City of Sauk Center via a grant that then it's allocated to roof repairs at Eagles Healing Nest. And Eagles Healing Nest is a 501c3, the trust is now. However, the state, when they appropriate, they can appropriate to other governmental units, so we're kind of acting as a fiscal agent or a pass-through for that. So going forward, we have to actually apply for the grant through deed, and then once the grant is awarded, then we would pay the bills, allocate the dollars, so we're acting as an agent. We have met with representatives from Eagles Healing Nest as we work our way through the details of the application. But part of the detail is we need approval from our local governing body to authorize the submittal of that grant. There will be an administration fee that will be retained by it. It's only for roof repairs out there, so we'll be going through the process of getting some new roofs put on those buildings. And then once those are done, if there's any remaining funds, it'll either get reappropriated by the legislature or they will be returned to the legislature. So there won't be like residual funds that we will keep. It's like we're just kind of managing the money for them and retaining an admin fee. So what I'm asking for tonight is to approve Resolution 2015-50, authorizing submission of the grant application for funds appropriated for Eagles Healing Nest roof repairs.
Questions? Comments? Just to get some history on this, how this got to this point. They needed roof repair. The state was going to give them, or could give them money, or if there was an application for it. I was contacted by a former legislator that was working on behalf of the Eagles Healing Nest, wanting to know if Sauk Center would be interested in being the conduit for this money. I had then talked to Vicki, and she drafted a letter on behalf of the city saying we would be. Personally, I think we got a vested interest in what goes on that end of town. So it would be silly to let the buildings fall apart. And basically with that, since they could not give the money to a private organization, it had to come through a governmental agency, we were the ones that got chose since we showed interest in doing it. So that brings us to this point where now we can look it over and do the application for the grant. So, is there any other questions?
We would only be the conduit, the fiscal agent for this. We wouldn't have any input into who gets hired to do it, or...
I've been working with Deed on that right now, and we would have to treat it at this point as if it was our dollars. It would have to be competitively bid. It would have to pay state labor rates, and that's the way that the state is telling me right now. Some difference of opinion on how the legislatures intended it to be appropriated and how the State Department is managing it, and so we're working through that right now.
Okay.
And so, but as it stands right now, the state is requiring us to actually competitively bid it as if it was our own project, and having the wages paid as if it was a city project.
So we will be soliciting for the contractors?
That's the way it sounds right now. Unless they revisit that and change the rules, I guess. They're coming up with the guidelines that we're supposed to follow, but the guidelines are changing as we move along. And so I said, well, I can come to the council, get authorization to formally go through the process, but the final process still isn't in concrete.
I would assume then that the contractors would have to adhere to what our constraints, or I shouldn't say constraints, but our regulations or
Correct.
requirements.
Because it is estimated a $300,000 project, you know, the competitive bidding law jumps in at 100,000,
Yep.
so we definitely meet that threshold.
Okay. Thank you.
And one of my major concerns was when showing interest is whether or not we were going to be able to recoup our administrative fees, which Vicky stated we would be able to. So whatever time we do spend doing the process, we're going to at least get our money back on the administrative side of it, to at least help them out, get what needs to be done.
How are we doing that?
How are we doing it?
How are we recouping our administrative costs?
When we submit the grant application, then when well, actually how it's going to work is the money will be appropriated and then we submit pay requests and then they deposit the money into our account. But in the grant application, there's a percentage each time. So if I submitted a pay request for $50,000, a percent amount would be allocated to administration that would come back to us.
Okay. And what is that percent?
That final percent isn't agreed to yet, but it's going to be somewhere, you know, it's probably going to be around 1%.
All right. So something in the neighborhood of $3,000 worth of administrative costs.
Correct.
So it won't cost us too much to do this.
No.
All right.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2015-50, authorizing submission of grant application for funds appropriated for Eagles Healing Nest roof repairs?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Heidi. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Yeah, a second by Keith. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7E, approve resignation from CBB board and advertise for candidates to fill.
Evie Schilling, she is the owner of Guest House. She has sold the Guest House and has resigned her position on the Convention and Visitors Board and Board of Directors. Her position was set to expire December 31st of 2016, so there's about a year and a half left on that. She is recommending that the purchaser of the hotel be appointed to the position, and I've also talked to some representatives of the CBB, and the ones that I have talked to have also recommended that. As you know, we have 8 members on that, 5 of who represent the lodging or hospitality industry, of which Evie was one of those. So we kind of have 2 separate actions here. One would be to accept her resignation, and the second one would be to either appoint the person that purchased the hotel to finish the term, or we could advertise for people that would be interested in serving that. So it's kind of a 2-part. So the second part of it requires a decision on your behalf which way you want to go. If you would prefer to just go ahead and appoint Esmita to fill the balance, or if you would like to advertise for it.
Questions? I think we'll handle it in a 2-part section. So for right now, I'd be looking for a motion to accept the resignation of Evie Schilling from the CBB board.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Keith, second by Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Now, as far as filling that vacant position, it's been recommended to appoint the new owner to that position or advertise for candidates to fill the position. One question that I've got is, Evie filled the spot of one of the hotel owners, right?
Correct.
So it would have to be filled by someone.
Hotel or hospitality industry.
Hotel or hospitality,
We expanded it to hospitality
That's
because we
right.
don't have that many hotels in town.
right? So there is a possibility that if we advertise someone else other than this person would.
There is that possibility, yes.
Okay. Not anything against the new owner, but I think it would only be right that we went out and opened it up, because rather than just here carte blanche, you're in.
I agree 100%.
I don't know what the rest of the council feels.
I think that the city directives are pretty clear. It says the mayor shall appoint with our approval. If you're not comfortable appointing from a pool of one,
Okay. You're right. So, what's the council's wishes?
I'll make a motion that we advertise for candidates to fill the position
I'll second
left
that.
vacant by Evie Schilling.
We've got a motion from Keith, a second by Diane to advertise for candidates to fill the position. Do we want a time frame on this?
we must have to advertise for
What,
2 weeks or something?
Yeah, we'll put it in the paper for 1 or 2 cycles and then give the candidates some time to respond. So you'd probably see this at your September meeting.
Okay. And at that time, maybe possibly if the new owner is interested,
just
they
the one
can
anyway,
apply,
but
and
yeah.
it could be the only person anyway, but
Yeah.
at least we didn't just go straight out and hand it over, so.
Absolutely.
We've got a motion and a second to advertise for candidates to fill the position. Any other questions or comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5 in favor, none against. 7F, approved plan for 2016 aquatic weed management.
Okay, the Big Sauk Lake Association, and they have a couple of representatives here tonight if you have any questions. So they received their final report of the lake survey, and they have prepared a plan and budget for 2016, and representatives of the Operations Committee were at their special meeting on July 25th to review that so it could get submitted to the watershed. The budget that you have there in your packet, as you see, it's the maximum that the lake survey identified, and then in the spring, when the DNR would actually come and inspect, that's when the real number gets set, when they actually decide how much they're going to allow to be sprayed. In addition, in that budget, there would be a new survey conducted that would be used for the next year's budget. So you take the survey this year to prepare the budget for the next year, and it just kind of leapfrogs like that. And so we have on here tonight to approve that annual work plan and budget for 2016 for the Big Sauk Lake Aquatic Plant Management Project. I did also provide you a colored copy of the report. I think the went in the packet was black and white, and the colored copy kind of shows a little more differentiation of where they found the higher concentrations of the curly leaf pondweed. So if you have any questions, either for myself or for representatives of the Sauk Lake Association, we'd be happy to answer them. Or Diane may have some comments relative to the meeting that she was at.
They're talking about only doing the spraying in the center of the lake and staying, I believe it's 150 feet away from the lake shore against the property owners. The chemical is approved by the FDA, and anybody can get a permit and spray, on their own property, but these people can't. They can only do the center of the lake. The problem we're having is we've got homeowners more up, I believe, on the north end, and if they don't spray, this just keeps reinfesting the rest of the lake. So what they're going to do is they're going to contact some of these property owners and ask them if they would be willing to do this at the same time they do the center of the lake. And hopefully this will bring everything under control. And they could get a better price too. I mean, not you guys, but I mean the property owners could if they do it at the same time.
Who will pay for the spraying of the private beach?
The property owners themselves.
Okay, so we'll be contacting them and asking if they want to join in and pay to have their property sprayed as well.
No, they would contact them.
Okay.
Not
I
us.
see us as a joint venture, so.
Right, right.
That's why I say we.
Yes, okay, I agree.
Any other questions?
The other thing I wanted to mention is they're going to do a survey each year, and find out how effective the spraying is. Do they need a spray every year? We don't know. Do they need a spray every 2 years, every 5 years, every 10 years? This way, they'll have scientific points where they can verify it and then go with that. It's not guesswork.
I just have a comment on that. The company that performed the weed survey that we're looking at tonight, they're independent of any other, they're not the company that would be actually spraying the lake, are they? So is there some form of agreement that we could, just to be scientifically validated, find this weed survey at the exact same times in the roughly same points that we conducted this year's weed survey next year at the same time? I know that the Lake Association obtained their own grants to spray on private sectors, is that correct? In May? Did the Lake Association have their
Can
own
we have
grant
Tim
money?
come to
You
the
wanna,
microphone?
Tim, you want to come up to the mic, please?
It was not private areas, it was a couple selected areas.
Were those also 150 feet from
Can we-
shoreline?
Just hold.
Just a sec.
Tim,
Can we-
can you come up to the mic so it's being recorded? Tim, can you come up to the mic and answer the questions that way for me? Thank you. That way everybody can hear.
So this year, the Lake Association sprayed a total of, was it 17 acres or something like that? 14 or 17 acres. After the DNR had gone out and done their survey, they said, these are the areas you should spray. So we did that. And north end and one on the lower bay. And the survey results that you see in here kind of show that.
Right, yeah.
You can see like on the lower bay, there was a little circle. Actually, it was the biggest circle of all that they sprayed. Right in the center of that circle, there was 0 curly leaf pondweed. Along the edges, along the shore, there was, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 per rake. But so you could see how that was effective there. I mean, it doesn't get everything. But there were some curly leaf pondweed identified around that, but certainly it was a lot better than it would have been had they not sprayed that.
Is there any evidence of effect of the Canada, what is it, coontail?
Coontail?
Coontail and Canada waterweed. Has the spray that was done in May affected those native weeds yet in those areas? Do we know that?
No, well, I don't know what it would have been had they not sprayed, so I
Okay.
can't tell you for sure, but in theory, the way they apply this, I think we've talked about this before, the way they apply this endothol or aquathol is that they do it at a low enough concentration where the native species aren't affected by it, and they do it early enough in the year when the native species are not even apparent. So there's the two things going for it.
The
Where-
sorry.
Where was the test spray done?
You got this?
It was right.
Well, I mean, well, it couldn't have been that whole area.
This
Not
was
if you
by
had
the
17
No,
neighbors,
areas.
it's within this document, though, you can see it. If you look on the Southwest Bay, this diagram right here,
Yep.
What
where it
page,
talks about curly leaf pondweed.
what page is that?
That's on page, I don't have page
There's
numbers.
no page.
Which figure
I
is
turned
it?
it
Curly leaf
once.
treatment page?
Which figure, Tim?
It says on the top, it says Sauk Lake curly leaf pondweed. It's probably the third page in.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, see where it says Southwest Bay, that little portion down there? That little bay on the very northeast side, where Big Jim's is, everybody
Yep.
familiar with Big Jim's? Okay, there's 2 yellows and a orange dot in that bay. You see that?
Yep.
It's the bay just down from Big Jim's. And then we sprayed so I would guess that those are within 150 feet of the lakeshore, but there was a high concentration right in the center of that bay. And so the only thing that they show is a few spots right along the shore. and those were areas that we did not spray. But they, basically, the curly leaf pondweed was gone in that area that we did spray.
Can you just show us on the map real
Yep.
quick, because we're not sure what you're pointing at? That one. All right.
Okay.
So there was a circle that we had to stay 150 feet off from the picture.
Okay.
Right in that bed. And you can see there's a zero.
Okay, so that little group of zero is probably right
The
where
other
it was
place they
sprayed,
sprayed was
okay?
right up in here, and it's not as easy to identify, but right off of this, right in here, kind of off that little Bailey's Bay.
Okay,
Yep. And there's still some in there, but there's a green, and a yellow, and one orange.
okay.
Where was the second spot we sprayed?
Right up.
Right up Bailey's.
Yeah. Okay.
There's one orange spot, just a tiny spot.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that area that they sprayed in the bay.
Okay. Yep.
There's that area I talked about right outside of Bailey's. And there was this little small area, it's hard to identify. There's a little zero mark on that point. I assume that's probably where that is.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I just have to say it, just to say it, but I am floored that we don't have, as we're designated, a DNR Eurasian water milfoil lake, that out of 800 and some test samples, they didn't find one iota. Can we,
Okay, the history behind the Eurasian
Dave
milfoil.
kind of gave me a little background
Okay, it goes
information.
way back to the early 90s.
Why is it not possible to get taken off of that list?
They, trust me, Dennis Fletcher has tried for years because it affects the way his operation runs, for
Yeah, for
example.
sure.
And the DNR refuses to delist a lake. And that's all I know. They just don't want to delist it for Eurasian milfoil. There was only one sample ever found. And
I looked, yeah, that was one thing that came up, and I said, only one invasive species, but yet we're a designated Eurasian milfoil lake. That just
Yep.
makes absolutely no sense to me.
okay,
Just had to say that.
One thing is, the budget for 2016 is like a hair over 59,000. How much is actually in the budget for what we got left? 220?
It's over
I don't think it's
200.
that much. I think it's
it's
like at least
220,
160,000, I think,
Something
for
like
sure.
that. My concern is, are we gonna end up, if we keep hitting it like this much every time, are we gonna use that money up and in 4 years, possibly have to be going back to assessing property owners again to keep this going?
I think,
At this rate, there'll be assessments probably in 3 years, two,
Right.
possibly three for sure.
if
because
the
reserves will
assumption is
drop.
having to treat the lake every year.
If we have to do it
Yeah.
every year, right?
I
This
think-
is just 2016, based on the weed survey in 2016, then we can look forward at 2017.
Right.
And decide then,
Right,
but it is a good chunk.
yeah. It's
I
a big
agree.
chunk of what's left there. That's one of my concerns, not that, because we can stay away from assessments, the better I can. The other question, who monitors when they're out spraying that they're gonna stay farther than 150 feet away from shore?
I'm not out there with the tape measure.
I know, but I was just wondering,
You know, we trust
I
their
can tell you
GP.
what I've been told. These people are licensed, and if they go outside their permitted areas, they're gonna lose their license.
Okay,
So
Yeah.
it's not in their best interest
it's
to
not
make
in their
errors.
best interest, right?
You know, they use a GPS.
I was
on
gonna say, I'm
everything.
sure they've got GPS markings, they can probably,
And as far as the amount,
they probably won't spray closer than 200 feet,
Yeah, so. One of the things that I noticed in the survey is there basically isn't any weeds past 12 feet deep. Now, Sauk Lake's a rather shallow lake. You're probably at that 6 foot, 8 foot level out 150 feet. So is there really that many acres to spray?
When you get to the north end,
on the north end?
there's a lot, and when you get to that lower bay on this side of the Narrows,
Right.
that lake is really shallow. So there's quite a bit. And then, again, along the shorelines, right down by the Narrows too on the north end,
Yep,
that's pretty shallow too.
okay.
As far as the dollars go, the 59,000 is a pretty big number, I agree. One of the things that I should mention is we use the $300 rate. When we got quoted $300, it was for the first block of spraying. So, and then thereafter went down to about 270 or something like that. We would be in that. A lot of it would be in that. The second thing is, just like next year will be like this year will be, or next year will be like this year when the DNR goes out there, they're probably going to delineate some of this. They're going to say, no, we don't want you in there. And finally, there's a 25% grant that's probably going to be available next year from the DNR for mitigating curly leaf pondweed. And that's what we use this year.
Okay.
And that'll be available. If that is available, we're going to apply for it, and I suspect we would get it. So again, that number is very large. If we wanted to if we could cut back down on the survey a little bit by changing the tract from 300 to 600 feet, if we wanted to do that, just spread it out so they don't have to survey so much, so close together. So there's some things we could do to get that budget down.
Okay, so if we, basically on our side of the approved, say the 59,316 or 315 area, and you applied for the grant and you get funding for it, since this is kind of a joint venture, is there a chance that grant money would be applied to this total so we wouldn't have to draw down that many dollars?
Absolutely. That's,
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I was just
Absolutely.
wondering. We could apply for it, and then instead of spending 59, if you get
No, it-
15,000.
It would be applied to this project, so it
Okay.
would go down by 25%.
Okay, sounds good. I've been around the lake, it's been over a month since the last time I did a trip around it, and I know there are problem areas from what I can see. We have to do it, but I don't see anybody pulling any magic rabbits out of their hat telling us we got a better way to get rid of the weeds than doing the spray thing, even though it is controversial to a certain extent. Basically, I guess, I think we can go with it. Personally, I don't know what the rest of the council feels. Anyone else have any extra comments or
Well-
concerns?
I'm still reluctant,
Yeah.
but I know that we've been fooling around with this lake now for 20-some years with weeds. And, as a fisherman, gosh, I wish the weeds were back, because there's no weeds on the south side, there's no fish either. And I'm concerned that, we kill off certain weeds, so the other ones don't come back. We just don't have any weeds. There's no cover for the fish, there's no spawning beds for the fish. That's not helping the fishery. And I don't see this fixing that unless we want to say that, gee, 20 years from now, maybe it'll correct itself. And I don't know, that's a guess. A hope at best. I know that I hear from fishermen, they don't like the weeds killed. The fish don't care what kind of weeds are there. They'll take any kind of cover, and it's going to be gone. But the other side of it is, at least what I see in this report, is the theory is that if you get rid of the curly leaf, the other weeds are going to fill in. I hope that's the case, and I guess we'll see that over the next year or two of surveys if we see some plants of the other kind showing up, as opposed to just, sand bottom or muck or whatever is down there after the weeds are gone.
I would agree with you, Dave. I also, reading up on this aquathol, there was a study done by Penn State, and it brought up something that is in our control that can be brought to attention of lake owners, business owners on the lake. And the problem with the phosphorus in the lake is what is feeding this curly leaf. So that can be drawn directly back to barnyards, crop fields, septic systems, lawns, and golf courses. how do we make sure that the landowners themselves are in cooperation to not bring this down to affecting their own property? Because that's where we hear most of the complaints is, I want my kids to swim, and they're having to dredge up their own beach because the curly leaf is 5 feet offshore. So is the Lake Association also, and the watershed, I should say as well, because it is upstream and it's on the river, how are we notifying landowners to make sure they're cooperating to not keep this from coming back and having it to be a city problem year after year, costing us $50,000, $60,000? Sorry.
Yeah, welcome to our world. Landowners, as you mentioned, septic systems, and even mowing right down to the lake, instead of putting a buffer strip, which we promote all the time. We give money to people if they do it. The Soil Conservation District gives money to people if they do it. Gene Fiedler is a great example of that. He did it. We promote that. It's not only the lakeshore owners, though. It's the runoff. Sauk Lake is a reservoir.
Right.
And it's picking up water from all over the place. So it's farm fields. So it's a lot of things. And our little lake association doesn't have the money to do that, so we promote it as much as we can. But it's the DNR watching over some of that stuff. It's the CRP people trying to get buffer strips along Ashley Creek, and we do our little part by trying to help out on some of these restore your shores, and promoting this stuff at our rain gardens, at our booth with the Watershed District. And the Watershed District does a lot too. But it's just like any lake in Minnesota. It's got the same problem, a lot more phosphorus now.
The one comment I got stating on the fisheries, actually, I think, from what I've been hearing, there's a lot more people catching fish now than they did before. Mainly, and I don't know if it's because we skipped a year and some of it's there, but I don't want to, it kind of seems like it's a happy balance right now. People are able to use the lake for what they want to do, and the fisheries, I haven't heard a whole lot of people complaining about not catching anything. In fact, I even was invited to go fish walleyes right across the lake from me, right off of Dave's shore, because they were catching walleyes there, and I haven't heard anybody catching walleyes in that part of the lake for years. So,
People were catching sunnies by the Narrows this year. I haven't heard of that in
for a while.
a long time.
So it's like, to me, I think we're to the situation where we have to maintain where we're at now. Let's not let it get any worse, but yet let's not totally decimate the whole lake. And we got that decent balance is what we're kind of looking for right now. I don't know if anyone else has got anything to...
You go right ahead.
One of the things we discussed was the possibility of looking into a company in St. Paul. There was a program on the Discovery Channel, and we had discussed these, it's called Midwest Floating Island. And what they do is they create it out of recycled material and plant life, and these are floating islands, or they could be anchored in one spot, and the roots will grow into the river and make cover for the fish. The benefit of these islands is it eats phosphorus. And that's all it does, is it absorbs phosphorus in the lake. It's one of the things. The islands, depending on the size of the island you want to build, can be anywhere from a few hundred to a few $1,000s. But I know that's one possibility we talked about too, besides the spraying.
Sure. Keith?
No, I was just going to say too, is there anything we could do as a city as far as limiting what people are putting on their yards? I mean...
I think there already is a phosphorus limit in your
Is there?
fertilizer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zero phosphorus.
Okay,
Yeah.
There already is city code on that. So,
good.
that part of it.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, I think we could discuss it for quite a while. And the pros and cons. with that, I'll be looking for a motion to approve or disapprove the annual work plan and budget for 2016 for Big Sauk Lake Aquatic Plant Management Project.
I'll make a motion to approve the plan for the 2016 aquatic weed management.
Okay, we have a motion by Diane. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second by Keith. Any other comments or questions?
Just a comment. I can't, my conscience isn't going to let me vote for this, not to put herbicides in the lake. I think it's going to pass, and I hope down the road it turns out I'm wrong.
Thank you. And we all respect your decision. So, or comment. Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion to approve the annual work plan and budget for 2016 for Big Sauk Lake Aquatic Plant Management Project. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Against?
Against.
Okay. Motion carries 3 in favor, 2 against. Thank you.
Say, Heidi, just kind of an answering, and you were talking about point sources when you were of the phosphorus and the nitrogen in the lake. The watershed actually had a grant a couple years ago or a few years ago to do a TMDL study, and we do have a copy of that, and it's pretty interesting about where the different point sources are that are contribute to it. It talks about the rivers, the farms, the lakeshore owners, and the city. So I'll get you a copy of
Yeah,
that.
that'd be awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 7G, approved payment request, Stearns County Beltline Project.
We have received the first payment request, and it was for the Beltline project. As you know, they're kind of spearheading the project and paying the bills, and we're paying them back for it. So the total request for this portion is $42,285.45. That is all toward the Beltline part of it. There's no billing yet for Center Street. But if you see on page 40, which is the next page, it lays out the county project, the city project, the Beltline is called I-94 Drainage, and the Center Street project. So they're keeping track of them all separately, so we'll be able to track the project as we move forward. So the request tonight is to approve that payment request, or just pay voucher number 1.
Okay, comments?
I had someone ask, maybe Keith, or you know, Vicki, what is happening behind the bank next to JT's? It's on the left side, not the right side. Is that part of the construction?
That is not part of our construction.
Okay.
That is a CNG fueling station.
Okay.
Separate completely project.
I thought so, but somebody asked me, and I thought, oh, I better make sure before I open my mouth.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, do I have a motion to approve pay voucher number 1 for $42,285.45 to Stearns County?
So moved.
We have a motion by Keith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7H, approved stipend.
The city has been fortunate over the past 5 weeks to utilize an intern in the administration department. This is the first time we've done this in many years. We have Kayla Gribble. She has been working with us, and she actually was at Alexandria Tech. She's transferring to Hamlin, and then she will be going on to law school from there. So she was working with the admin department. She did research, work on our records retention, nuisance complaints. She worked with the police department. She covered the front desk during employee vacation, so she has far surpassed what our expectations for having an intern. Although it's not required that she be paid for the internship because we are a public entity, I am requesting that we give her a $500 stipend, and we would pay this out of contract services budget in the admin department. So this is a request that I'm putting forward to approve a payment of $500 to intern Kayla Gribble.
Questions? Comments? I know she was here when Wendy was on vacation, and she handled it well.
Very
and
helpful.
kept things moving. So personally, I don't have a problem with this. Do I have a motion to approve payment of a $500 stipend to intern Kayla Gribble?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Dave. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Any other comments or questions? I think one thing was, it was a learning experience since it's the first time we've ever done it. And I think I don't know, I think on your behalf, if someone else wanted to do it, we probably would consider it, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I was pleased with it. It was kind of a last-minute thing for her to come to us. She had been going out to the private sector, and then one day she came in here and wanted to know if it was possible. And after talking with her professors, and they highly recommended her, we decided to give it a chance, even though it was new for us too. Because sometimes you'll get an intern or community service, and it becomes more of a babysitting job than a benefit. But having 3 children that went through college and knowing the value of obtaining an internship, we did it. So it worked out very well. We're happy with her. And we would consider doing it in the future.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve payment of a $500 stipend to intern Kayla Gribble. I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approve Resolution 2015-51 authorizing lot split/recombination.
We have a large parcel of land up on the north end of the old homeschool property, which is in the Erica C. Cates Trust. And the trustee of that has submitted an application for a minor subdivision for property. The purpose of the subdivision or a lot split is to allow the sale of a piece of that to an adjacent landowner for combination with his parcel. The person that is looking to purchase kind of the woods behind his house is Dr. Joel Dunn. We do have a certificate of survey is attached. You see on there, it is indicated on the certificate of survey, it's an 18,845 square foot parcel. It will be added to his property. And then the remainder of parcel of Outlot A will remain compliant with city codes and restrictions. And then that also is being sold to a private party. So we have kind of 2 sales going on here, but the one that requires the city approval is that lot split to allow to be recombination with Mr. Dunn's property. You do show the survey in there and the completed application, and the city code allows the city council to directly approve a minor subdivision when it meets all the city codes.
Questions? Concerns? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2015-51 approving the minor subdivisions?
So moved.
A motion by Heidi, second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Comments? Questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. 7K, approve Resolution 2015-53 approving quote for concrete work.
The Park Board had reviewed the options for installation of the concrete walkways and the patios for the Park Department for the splash pad project. We did have quotes from area contractors. We received 2 for the sidewalk portion and 2 for the patio portion. The Park Board met and they recommend the city finalize the contract with A&H Concrete for the installation of the sidewalks and the patios. And the installation of the concrete is part of the original budgeted plan for this park. So I have approving Resolution 2015-53 awarding the quote for the installation of the concrete.
Questions? Comments? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2015-53 awarding quote for installation of concrete?
I'll make the motion.
A motion by Diane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other comments? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Approve Resolution 2015-52 approving irrigation system extension.
This was the addition to your packet tonight. We didn't have the quotes yet at the time that the packet went together, but the Park Board did review this last night. It's the pricing for Phase 2 of the irrigation system at the Splash Pad Park. As you know, Phase 1 was installed in 2013, and that included like the circle of the trail and around the basketball courts and around the skate park. with the understanding that we would do Phase 2 then after the pad was in and the shelter was in. So we do have Phase 1, it actually had 64 heads and 7 zones, and we paid $10,460 for that. Phase 2 has 68 heads and 7 zones for $81.60, and Phase 2 will connect into Phase 1, so it'll all be operated off the same system. So we'll have zones 8 through whatever to be added on the end of the first ones. In addition to that, Advanced Irrigation, as part of their quote, they supplied a quote for final grade and hydro seeding at a price of $3,260. That's approximately 18,000 square feet. It'll be all the disturbed area for the irrigation. It'll be disturbed area around the pad, around the shelter, and all of those areas. And so that'll become hydro seeded, which has a tendency to make a very good grass surface once it grows in. The Park Board voted to recommend hiring Advanced Irrigation for the installation of Phase 2 and for the final grading of the hydro seeding. So we have we have a resolution for awarding the quote for Phase 2 of the irrigation to Advanced for $81.60, and then we have a second motion to approve the hiring of Advanced Irrigation to hydro seed the disturbed areas after the installation. And I did provide you the resolution for the sprinkler system.
Okay, questions, comments? I think it's looking really nice out there now.
It's coming together fast.
We gotta seal the part of the concrete.
The splash pad itself will be sealed now. They wanted it to cure for 28 days, and then we can seal that, and then we'll be sealing the aggregate, and that's going to be done by city staff.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll hand and take care of the first one first. Approve Resolution 2015-52 awarding quote for installation of Phase 2 or irrigation system.
I meant of.
Huh?
It was of, not or.
Yeah, of irrigation system for Splash Pad Park, yes. Thank you, Nikki. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Dave,
Well, second.
second by Heidi. Any other comments on that? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Now, looking for a motion to approve hiring Advanced Irrigation to hydro seed all disturbed area of Splash Pad Park following installation of the sprinkler system.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Diane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other comments or concerns? Were you worried about any foot traffic or anything like that as far as disturbing the seating if we open the splash pad?
Well, we talked about, what some other parks have recommended. What they do actually is they'll just put like stakes and a caution tape or a rope or something along there. And like I said if kids don't do it or the parents don't watch their kids and they start walking through it, I guess all we have to do is shut it down. I mean, we have that option. But as a general rule, they pretty well abide by it. There's always going to be someone that's going to walk through it, though. We expect that.
True. Okay. Any other comments or questions? We have a motion to approve hiring Advanced Irrigation to hydro seed all disturbed area of Splash Pad Park following installation of sprinkler system, and we also have a second. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Unfinished business, pay equity report.
As you know, we submit our pay equity report in January of every year based on wages in effect on 12/31 of the prior year. So we did file that report in January. And now we've received notice that they need more information. And the reason for that is that in the past, we've always had to report in conjunction with the hospital, because the hospital were all city employees. And we had a significant change from that report and this report. And so it kind of burped out of their system big time. And so they're asking us for a lot of additional information. Once we get that to them, because we have it compiled now, they said they'll give us a determination within 30 days. So it's just still going. I've had people say, how come we've never heard from them? It's been 8 months. Well, that's what happened. So this is kind of just an update for your information.
Okay. TIF District Annual Report.
The TIF district reports for 2014 have been submitted. They're always due by July of the next year for the prior year. And I do have a full copy of the 128-page report for any of you that are interested in coming in and reading it. But this is the published summary that goes in the Herald. That kind of just it indicates what the tax capacities are of the district and the revenues that go in and out of those districts. After this report, now we've decertified districts going forward. This report's going to get smaller and smaller. So if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask.
Any questions right now?
Nope.
Okay. Then we will move on to 2015 capital improvement updates.
Mayor and Council, the project is moving along very nicely. All of the pipe work, or almost all the pipe work, will be completed within the next day, with the exception of a couple minor, the water main tie-in at Holiday Station. There's a water main tie-in that's just became required today on Fair Lane because the water main was unfortunately extra deep when it was excavated, and our storm sewer runs into it. So we're going to have to lower that water main underneath our new storm sewer. So an unexpected change, but water main was like 9.5 feet deep, so it was deeper than what it was normally supposed to be. So those two things will be left. Otherwise, we're moving in some of the street work on Getty has been done. Next week, they'll be getting into actually putting the gravel and doing curb and gutter on Getty Street. So starting to put that back together. Pond work is half done on the one by Fleet. The one at Co-op is roughed in and it just needs to get its final grading. We still do not have that easement in Co-op. We've decided that we're going to abandon getting that easement and we're just going to work around that property. We just can't get a hold of anyone, so we've decided to give up on it. So the one by Getty just needs some final grading on that. The last one they haven't even started grading yet will be the Fairlane Pond itself. The grading and the street work on Center will sort of be the last portions that will be done kind of after they work on Getty. They'll move to Center Street for that. So that'll be a couple weeks out yet before that gets done. But things are moving along pretty nicely. So any questions?
They're going to be raising that road bed up quite a ways, right? I take it on Beltline?
On Beltline, yeah, it's coming up. I can't remember how far, but it is coming up from the county plans.
If you look at the edges right now, the road's probably 3 feet lower than the sod is in the interpretive center.
Yeah, they come back, and what happens is they have to mix all that material down below, so they pull off the top. They have to go down 3 feet, mix, and then relay and recompact all that material, bring it back up again. But I think Centerline, if I recall, is going up, gosh, I want to say 7 inches. Don't quote me on that, but it is actually higher than what the roadway was before. Okay. So, and I don't know if that's consistent throughout, but it's a little bit higher through there.
Okay. Any other questions or comments of Keith?
Okay. Thank you.
New business, wellness incentive program.
Last year, I came to the City Council with an introduction on a wellness incentive program available to our employees with health insurance through Resource Training and Solutions Co-op. So that's the non-union employees and the Public Works Union. As you know, the police union has went with a different insurance provider. The program for the wellness is to provide staff members with the ability to earn dollars to apply toward their insurance premium. And what it is they would receive funds and rather than taking a deduction out of their check for their insurance premium that month, the city would pay that out of these funds we would receive if the employee participated in the program. And what the program includes is they would first have to do an online health risk assessment and register with ClearCost. So basically it's kind of a kind of to identify areas where you could maybe need improvement or how well you're doing, or it's a learning tool is really what it is. And the ultimate goal is to be healthier to lower your insurance needs. The second part is you have to report blood pressure, cholesterol, and glucose if they're within a healthy range. And the third part is you can take online wellness courses, which you could earn up to $50 each, up to a maximum of 3. And there are things about blood pressure and moving and relaxing and different things like that. So on these 3 options, if an employee registered and followed through on all of that, then the city would be given a check for that employee for $350, and then we internally would deduct or use that money to pay the employee's deduction for their health insurance part of it. So it's an incentive to the employee to participate in the wellness program. There is no cost to the city at all to do this. The only part that would be a city cost, I guess, would be when we actually receive the check and deposit it and then turn around and do the deduction. So it's really an internal insignificant cost. I have talked to a few of the employees that are very interested in participating with it. In fact, 2 years ago when we were talking to the union agent, he had asked whether we had ever considered doing anything like this. So I'm pretty sure if the council approves us to move forward with it, then I would have to contact the Public Works Union. I'm pretty confident they'll be willing to participate, and the admin staff already want to participate in it. So it's just a matter of the city council allowing us to enter into that agreement with Resource Training and Solutions and implementing it. So that's what I'm asking to do, is to be able to roll it out to the non-union and then to offer it to the Public Works Union. Of course, that requires a bargaining with their contract. But if they want it, it's not too hard of a bargain.
Questions?
Would this be taken into consideration by insurance companies if you were shopping around that we've got a program like this?
When we do, this is through our resource training through Blue Cross. And when we go out for bids in the pool, which we will be doing now in 2016 for the 2017 renewal, then they look at how much your program participates in wellness programs. So they have a pretty good wellness program going on, but the higher participation you have within your city looks good when they're trying to determine your rate. So.
Okay, any other questions, comments? If none, I'll be looking to a motion to roll out the program to the non-union employees and offer to enter into memorandum of understanding with Public Works Union for participation.
I'll make that motion.
We'll make a motion from Keith. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Diane. I think actually if we get more people we get on this, there's a possibility we might not have less time loss or whatever in different situations. So it's a benefit there for the city also, so.
They did this for the federal government when I worked there, and we weren't given a choice. We were told, you will do it.
Oh, okay.
So we did.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. That brings us to our consent agenda. We have our schedule of claims, unpaid claims of $869,072.85. Paid claims of $1,419.74 for a total of $870,492.59. We have a resolution number 2015-54 accepting contributions. It's $173 from the Men's Card Playing Group for the Senior Center. Sauk Center Conservation Club for $1,000 for Park and Rec for the dock. $155 from Minnesota National Bank for the Shade Tree Fund. $165 from Minnesota National Bank to go toward the splash pad. Sauk Center Family Dental for $20 to go toward the splash pad. Central Heating and Air for $100 to go toward the splash pad. David Boddicker Trucking, $50 to go toward the splash pad. Casey's for $250 to go toward the splash pad. Truckers Inn for $200, also to go to the splash pad. Becker Sanitation, $100 to go toward the splash pad. And Stearns Electric, their Operation Roundup for $500 to be allocated toward the senior center. I want to thank all those groups or people that donated their money to those resources. Also have a request from Sarah Weber, representing Sauk Center Arts Council, for a road closure of Park Road from the intersection of Oak to Highway 71 and the Sinclair Lewis Park parking lot for a classic car show on Wednesday, August 12th, 2015, from 6 to 8:30 p.m. to allow the classic cars to be parked in both areas during the Music in the Park performance of the 57 Chevy Band. And we also have a request from Melanie Raring, DBA M&M Corner Bar, for a temporary extension of premise permit for music and dancing in back parking lot on August 15th, 2015, with live music from 8:30 to 12:30. Is there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
A motion by Dave. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Heidi. Any other comments, concerns? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. We have no informational items that I know of. With that, I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
A motion from Heidi.
Well, we can see who
And
wants to
we
get
have
out
a
of here.
second from Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.